I'm Stacy Frank from Lionfish University, and how many of you know about the lionfish invasion? Okay, all right. Well, the lionfish invasion started about 1985 in the eastern portion of the United States, and it started primarily from fish from aquariums, the lionfish being dumped into the ocean, and unfortunately it's created a perfect storm of an invasion. The lionfish is one of the huge predators in the ocean in the invasive area, and they've created arguably the worst marine disaster in history. And they eat enormous quantities of food. They devastate the native marine fish in the area, all the way from New York, all the way down through the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, all the way down now to Brazil. And they've actually just shown up now in Italy, and they went through the Suez Canal and down into that area. They produce 50,000 eggs every 3 days. This is the newest information from NOAA. And nothing eats the eggs or the fish. So they have just procreated out of control, and there's nothing eating them. And the good thing, and why I'm here at the food exposition, is that lionfish taste really, really good. Have any of you eaten lionfish at our booth or before? Okay, all right. They are a great tasting food source, and one of the things that we are working on is some research into creating better ways to get them to market. But here are some of the things that lionfish eat. They're just indiscriminate generalist predators. And this was sent to me by a researcher, Corey Eddy, who lives in Bermuda, and he does a lot of dissections of these fish. This slide right here, he found in a lionfish's stomach, they looked like Pringles stacked up. It was all these little crabs were stacked up in the stomach of this lionfish. They will eat anything that is 2/3 their size or less on the reefs. So they basically are destroying the reefs in this invaded area. Unfortunately, at this point, removing them is very labor intensive, and they have to be speared individually. And it's not like tuna fish where they're out in the open ocean and you can net them. They hide under ledges, they're rather difficult to get out. So right now, culling them is the way to get them to market. And there's some other very creative people out there that have come up with some kind of crazy schemes. This fellow invented an underwater version of a 9mm Glock. And I'm not sure I'd want to be his dive buddy, or, the way he might miss and hit the reef also would not be such a great thing with this. But there are many, many scientists that are working on the problem. It's one of the hottest topics right now in marine biology. We've been working with Dr. Steve Giddings of NOAA, who's also one of our volunteer science advisors, and he has invented some lionfish traps. And the goal of these traps is to collect passively 24/7 more lionfish than can be culled out, and also get them to market in more consistent quantities. Right now, it's a little spotty getting them to market, and usually restaurants will have them as the catch of the day rather than on their menu consistently. So we're hopeful that this will provide one of the solutions. I was just reading yesterday that there is a new robotic lionfish killer machine that's being tested off of Bermuda, and it apparently electrocutes the lionfish and then collects them. And they're also hoping that that would be a way to get a larger amount of them to the marketplace and get the price down. That's going to be a real big thing as far as the food industry. Talking to all the chefs here, I've been realizing that's a very big issue that we hopefully will help correct along the way with some of the research that's being done right now. And also lionfish is in addition to being great tasting, it's very healthy. It's very high in omega fatty 3s, very, very low in mercury. It's almost one of the lowest of these fish that were tested on mercury. And they also are parasite resistant in the invaded area. So you don't really have to worry about parasites in them. A lot of fish do have that. There are a lot of products coming out related to lionfish. Here's one from Pensacola. They were taking lionfish and making it into a really, really good tasting dip. We had it at a trade show in November, and people were just going crazy over this dip. It's awesome. And people are making lionfish jewelry. I've got lionfish earrings on right now, made of the fins. And a big distinction about lionfish, as far as preparing them, if you're selling them to eat in a market or a restaurant, they are not poisonous. So it's not like a blowfish where it's very, very specific to prepare them, or you might kill who is ever eating them. All you do is cut off the venomous spines that they have, and then they're safe to prepare any way you would normally prepare any other fish. I would recommend puncture-proof gloves to cut off the spines, but I've got many friends that they will hold the lionfish by the mouth that doesn't have any spines in it, and they'll just trim the spines off. But as David here knows, getting a lionfish sting is really painful, so I would definitely recommend the puncture-proof gloves with them. And you just prepare them like you would any other fish. There are some specific lionfish cookbooks available. This one is through Reef Environmental Education Foundation. It's also a great conservation organization. But if you've got a favorite recipe that calls for a white fish, you can substitute the lionfish for that. And these are just some ideas of some things that people have done that are kind of clever. I really liked the lionfish sushi dragon, and that's got the whole head of a lionfish and then the sushi trailing after it. This one is lionfish tacos from a beautiful resort down in Little Cayman. And what they find is it's on the menu most of the time, but not all the time. And they have people call up specifically to find out if they have lionfish on the menu, or they say, oh, no, I'll come back when you get lionfish. It's like once people find out how good it is, they absolutely love it. And this one is an Eggs Benedict version. So come visit us at booth 415 if you haven't already. There's some familiar faces out there that have been by already. And we're going to be serving wine and cheese just for fun, along with the lionfish ceviche tacos as well.